Hello there, everybody. Roger Durling, Executive Director of the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, and I am so excited with our three guests today that are here to talk about Borat, subsequent movie film. We have fresh Golden Globe nominated Sacha Baron Cohen, Best Actor. He was also nominated for Best Supporting Actor for a different film. And we have Maria Bakalova, who was nominated yesterday for Best Actress, Golden Globe. And today, this morning, Screen Actors Guild, Best Supporting Actress. And this gentleman here, Jason Woliner, you weren't nominated for anything. What are you doing
No,
here?
no.
No, just kidding. You got not. Hey, you got nominated for Best Picture, and you helmed it. So you get a piece of that Golden Globe nomination. Welcome, guys. How do you, Maria? How do you feel with all this love you're getting, all these nominations?
I'm feeling extremely grateful, and it's something like I'm wondering, am I dreaming? Is this reality? What is happening? And I want to thank you too, because putting my name in a list with so many incredible people, also next to Sacha in Santa Barbara, it's just everything is beyond amazing. I'm really overexcited and happy. And
well, you deserve it. It's one of the best performances in a very, very long time. One of the greatest debuts in cinema. So, I mean, you deserve all the kudos coming to you. Sacha, I'm going to start with you. I've seen the film a couple of times, and what you do acting-wise is something remarkable. You play the character Borat, and on top of that, there are so many disguises, so many other characters you play, but we always notice that there is a Borat playing all those different characters. How difficult was to calibrate that?
That's a really great question, because it's something that myself, Jason, and the writers talked about and worked on for months, which is, I have to play Borat playing another character, which has to be believable to the real people in the scene, but the audience have to see Borat underneath that character.
Correct, yes.
And then Borat can't be a great actor, so there has to be moments that Boratism slip in. So it has to be his version. Sometimes obviously the person in the room doesn't believe the character. When Borat is playing a Jew with Holocaust survivors, they go, he's wearing a Pinocchio nose and devil wings. Obviously, they're not believing that Borat is Jewish. But Borat needs to believe that he's doing a great performance. So the way to do that, and we worked on it really carefully, was firstly, I looked at every other comedy character who played comedy characters. So one, my
Peter Sellers.
Great, exactly. So Sellers, and I know that scene off by heart where he plays the dentist. He's playing it and you see moments of Clouseau go in. Because for me also, I just finished a show called Who is America? I played 6 characters. And so we were worried, like, if I play the character too convincingly, you'll start thinking, oh, this is me playing a new character. It has to be Borat playing a character. So we just experimented with voice. How do you make sure that it's Borat? So it's that gradation of you still got Borat under it. So with like the Wuhan flu, I have to be believable as a country and western singer for these, hundreds of people with machine guns in the audience. They don't think I'm mocking them. So how do we, what do we do with the voice? What do you do with the physicality? How do we believe that it's Borat underneath there? I was lucky enough to work with this brilliant dialect coach called Tim Monick, who I'd met on the set of Martin Scorsese's Hugo. And I was like, how do we do this? How do we get people not to recognize Borat? We worked on it for a while, and we realized if we dropped an octave, some Borat is very here, very nasal, it's in the head. And then we drop an octave. We're down here, right? Gravelly here. Oh, the Wuhan flu. And that's it with the Wuhan flu. So you still got some Borat in there. And then, and then you add, occasionally, well, the Wuhan flu, and that's, we're giving little indicators to the audience that it's Borat, while not going too far where the audience who are carrying guns don't go, this guy's taking the mick, right? So it was a real, we worked on that a lot, the physicality. Also, these were costumes that Borat had chosen. But we had to go, we had a brilliant costume team, but Borat, we had to go, what is the version that Borat has gone and bought and is wearing now? So everything had to come from the mind of Borat. What's the accent? What are the words? What are the phrases? Yeah, hell yeah, was the, we believe that he would know that phrase and put it in.
And
so,
but
yeah, it was a challenge is the answer.
And Sacha, I also noticed, and I will include the rest in a second. But I also noticed that while all of this is happening, there's also changes and an evolution in him that is triggered by other people. So, I mean, do you know what I mean? That he's starting to evolve as a person, and all of that while he's Borat in disguises of other people.
Right. So this was a movie about a lot of things, but one of the things it's about is about the patriarchy, and it's talking about the role of how fathers see their daughters, the fact that through much of history and in many places, girls are seen and considered as property, or at best subordinate, that they obey their dads right until the day that they start obeying their husbands. And obviously that's going on at the same time in the world as a different part of the world where women are celebrated, they're being educated, they're world leaders, they're inventing vaccines, running the International Monetary Fund. And so the idea was to transform Borat, the most misogynistic character ever, into a feminist. And to do that in 90 minutes, make sure we had a hilarious film, make sure the film's a satire. But fundamentally, Tutar's character and his growing love for her brings about this change where he realizes, I have to let her choose what she does with her body and what with her life. And for that, we studied in detail in the writing of this and even in the editing, movies where you have these paternalistic characters that from patriarchal characters that become feminists. Everything from Fiddler on the Roof to The Wedding Banquet to Monsoon Wedding to Bend It Like Beckham, these traditional societies that are broken down. And then obviously trying in the structure of it to structure it like a romance or kind of a rom-com. So that's, one of the first films that we saw was It Happened One Night. And you have that realization of, oh my God, I love her. I love her as a dad and I'm paternal to her and I have to do what I can. At the end, we're going to have this guy, Borat, this ridiculous character, go, I'm going to die if needs be to have my daughter, realize herself and do what she wants. And so that's why, sorry, carry on.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
But that's why the idea of a woman's right to choose was really important. We brought on some of the best, female comedy writers, Jenna Friedman, Erica Riva-Neuer, Nina Pedrad, and we were delving into this idea of, this theory of, even though in America's an amazingly developed first world country, there are parts of America where, a woman's rights in certain areas are similar to how they are in Saudi Arabia. So in a pregnancy crisis center, women are pushed into not having abortions, not having the right to choose. And in that scene, which was conceived actually by Jenna Friedman, we wanted to posit the theory, if one of the people who ran one of these bogus pregnancy centers was confronted with a father who, you know, an incestuous rape, would he push the girl to have the baby or not, you know? And the answer was he would, because he believed it was God's will. So that idea of a woman's right to choose, and obviously the culmination of that is this scene with the president's lawyer.
Correct.
You know, and this fundamental, you know, fundamental misogyny within the Trump regime. And those, that's why we had to penetrate. That's why we had to get Maria to infiltrate his inner circle. And Maria had spent months, you know, at times she was in, you know, small rooms with the president's son. She got taken into the White House by One American News, OAN, Trump's favored news outlet. We had to get in there because we had to remind the audience just before the election, particularly women, that fundamentally this is a misogynistic regime, even though there's many, you know, Trump supporters who are women. Fundamentally, you know, this is the thing where one of his trusted confidants, a lawyer, was ready to do what he did in that hotel room.
Wow. Wow. Maria, you know, tell us about it. It is a remarkable performance. I mean, and you never play it for laughs. There is a reality to this character that you build, and you transform from this cave woman to Megyn Kelly, and you do it. There is a subtlety and a calibration to this transformation. Can you tell us about the process and working on this role?
It's been probably the most amazing journey that I've been part of, because from the very beginning, I have to say that I'm a lucky person, because I was given this chance to work on a project that is that impactful and at the same time super entertaining people. And Sacha is genius. Borat, the first movie, is probably the best comedy in the entire world forever. So doing a sequel with somebody that hasn't done comedy before, standing right next to Sacha, it's been a little, not a little bit, a lot challenging, because he is incredible. He's a master. But I was lucky because probably I'm one of the only Bulgarian Eastern Europeans who has been given this platform to play a multi-layered character such as Tuta, like starting from somewhere, going through something more, and developing her own ideas of her life, her dreams, what she want to become. And also at the same time, working with people that have been listening to me and listening, what is my opinion, what are my instincts, because there hasn't been like, here's the script, just say these lines or something like this. It's been a dialogue between all of the creators, Sacha teaching me and mentoring me how I can be concentrated and how I can increase what is in the scene, and Jason guiding me from the very first audition to the last day of shooting at the White House. And they, at the same time, we're like, okay, so if you are in this position, how would you feel if you are Tuta? Are you going to be okay? And listening, where are my ideas? Because Tuta somehow reminds me of myself, because she is this little girl with huge dreams, probably not so huge, if I have to be honest, but with a huge heart and full of love, that is gonna unconditionally love her father and believe in everything, until the moment when she's gonna meet her godmother, Janice Jones, who is actually probably the person who is gonna make Tuta change herself in a way that she can make her own choices. And if she want to change, she should change for herself, not just to fit in the norm and to, how to say, to please the men's society, the patriarchy world that we've been talking about earlier. So that has been in general, and starting from the way that we've been speaking the Tutus language in the beginning, no matter that I'm speaking here and I'm speaking with a lot of Romani words, because we have a Romani society in Bulgaria, and some of the words, some of the letters are more hard, and same with with the way she's walking, the way she is thinking, I think.
Jason, how this, tell us the complexity of putting this film together. The fact that you started with an idea of where the film should go, and then COVID came in, and you had to completely pivot and rethink how things were done. How much hair did you lose?
I probably lost a few years. Sacha and the writers really had a great sense of the story and the structure. Even from the time I first met, it's very much what you see in the movie. The story of Borat and Tutar's relationship, the idea of this climactic scene happening with someone in Trump's inner circle. Actually, in the first script I read, Rudy was in there, so he was already kind of a part of the plan. But we also talked about other things that always kind of kept coming back to Rudy. So all of these big things were very figured out very early on. The script was really, they had poured over the script, and in the first few months of pre-production just worked on the script, and then within that a lot would change on the day to day. And COVID was certainly the biggest change that we had to deal with. Like everyone else, we shut down for a few months, not knowing whether we'd be able to finish the movie at all in time. It was so important to us that it come out before the election and to have any kind of impact and make a statement about Trump and about what was going on in America. And so once kind of industry protocols were established and said, we feel like this is a level of risk that's acceptable, and here's what you do when you have a positive, and here's the amount of testing that we think we can kind of tiptoe back into production, we made the decision. We were out, right away, basically, and dealing with all the realities of that in as safe a way as possible. We were very fortunate that no one got sick on set while we were shooting. We were so lucky about that. But it added an amount of anxiety to an already very nerve-wracking shoot, for sure, because we were kind of building these very intricate realities, getting these scenes with people who aren't exactly aware, what it is, don't know they're in a comedy, don't know that Sacha and Maria are playing characters, doing, small scenes with a few people at a time, one person at a time, also doing these much bigger scenes like in CPAC, trying to figure out how to infiltrate that in a relatively safe way that's completely legal, but still there's an element of someone misunderstanding what's going on and things going very wrong. The gun rally in Washington's another example. So there are small scenes and big, and then COVID, where we're in this environment where it just adds so much attention to everything. In terms of the story, it was always the plan, because we had studied these romantic comedies and also these father-daughter, basically two-hander structure, where at a certain point the two characters have a falling out. In ours, she rejects him, and they split up for a period of time. And in the original conception of it, we had an idea that he would always enlist guys, because the movie from the beginning was very much about misogyny, and that he would enlist guys to help find her, basically, and kind of force her into doing this thing that he knew he needed to do to save his life. And in doing so would eventually realize that was wrong and that she needed to make her own decisions. Once COVID happened, we had the idea, in this kind of period of kind of figuring out what we needed to change, the idea came up, well, what if he locked down with a bunch of, Trump guys kind of in that conspiracy world? And that felt like kind of a perfect fit for the structure that we already...
Jason.
Sorry?
That was your idea.
It was my idea. No, it was a few people's ideas, but the idea of just going that, and then they see her on the computer. And then we had, for months since the beginning, had thought we would find her at a public event. Originally, was it a Trump rally? It was something else. And then we were so lucky that these anti-lockdown lucky in terms of the movie.
A gun rally. It was a gun rally in Richmond.
Right.
We actually shot it at Richmond, Virginia.
We shot
another terrifying day where I had to put on a bulletproof vest, and
that scene that didn't even make the movie. Last January, we were at the biggest gun rally in American history in Richmond, Virginia. Over 20,000 people there, most of them white guys with AR-15s, and we shot this whole chase sequence that we completely threw out because of the change, and that it became an anti-lockdown rally. So, basically these were all ideas from the beginning, and we just kind of had to pivot and adjust and figure out, in addition to the logistical concerns of how do we do this as safely as possible in the time of COVID, but also how do we make what we want to do with the story, with the emotional arcs, work in the reality that we're all living in 2020 and now.
Sacha, one of the really just beautiful things about the film is that you show the complexity of these characters, and was that a surprise to you? It's very moving to watch, you know, Jim and Jerry actually that there's commonality, that there's kindness. And actually in all the different scenes, there is a sense of kindness in people.
Yes, I mean, again, Borat 1 had one set of aims. It was about exposing hate. It was also about making the funniest movie that we could make. This one was more about showing how hate, lies, and conspiracies enable this slide into authoritarianism and the destruction of democracy, and obviously about the decline and the necessity of ending the patriarchy. You know, we want to show here that in a very divided society, in a very divided America, where we dismiss, we argue, and we're in our separate echo chambers, and those people are bad. You know, if you look at the statistics, many Democrats and many Republicans not only dismiss the views of people on the other side of the aisle, they actually think they're evil. And when you have that, it's very hard for a democracy to function, right? So our aim was also to make people empathize with those they completely disagreed with politically. That's why Jim and Jerry, while they're conspiracy theorists, we wanted to show that they would welcome and help a foreigner, that they had fundamentally sound and good views on women. They wanted to tell and explain to Borat that his views on women were completely wrong, and that his daughter could be a great journalist. We wanted to show Judith, the Holocaust survivor, the fact, you know, she's this beautiful woman. Unfortunately, she passed away recently, but she teaches Borat the reality of the Holocaust and feeds him and hugs him. We had Janice, the babysitter, who helps Tutar see her own beauty, to stand up for herself, to realize that she doesn't have to belong to a man in order to have worth. So we wanted to show these beautiful, inspiring people as well, and to sort of remind people that it isn't that some people are bad and some people are good. There are these conspiracy theories, these lies that were spewed by the president, his circle around him, and they were magnified on social media, that were being adopted by fundamentally good people. And when, you know, good people believe in horrific things, they can do and carry out dreadful acts, which we saw at the Capitol.
Follow up to Maria about the earlier point about Sacha playing Borat and then wearing all these different disguises. You also must have had a very difficult time because you have to react not only to Borat, the character, but all these different layers of different disguises. Can you tell us what was that like from your vantage point?
Mine different versions of Twitter or Borat's different?
No, the fact that, you know, there is Borat, the main character, and then he's wearing different disguises, and you're reacting to the different layers that he has. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Thank you. It's been super interesting because I don't even think that I realized how Sacha speaks like until really, really late when COVID happened and we started talking about what we're gonna do next and how I'm gonna keep working, what can we do during the lockdown, because he's been in character almost all the time, even in rehearsals, behind the scenes. And that was something that I tried to steal from him in my acting world, because it's been impressive and I admire it. So it's been interesting. And for me, it was like, okay, this is my father. This is Borat. but why is he wearing this disguise and why is he doing this? And we have it even in the script where he's saying, can you ask them, are they not, or we might not have it in the movie, because we had a scene when we've been driving and Boris is giving Tutas the phone and ask them, are they know how I look? And are they know Borat? So it's not in the movie maybe anymore, right? Well, and that's why he needs to change. He needs to start wearing all of these other disguises, because as we saw in the beginning, he is already famous. So for me, as Maria and as Tuta, it was like, wow, this is extreme. Okay. What kind of character he's gonna play now? What is gonna be today? Who we're gonna meet? Even me as Maria and Tuta. Who is this person? Why he is Country Steve today? Why he is Jean Chevrolet the next day? And it's been amazing. It's been crazy. It's been like more than one movie at the same time.
Jason, were you editing as the movie went on, and how much did the editing affected the way the movie progressed? Meaning that the editing helped the continuation of the writing?
Yeah, absolutely. We started the edit as soon as we started shooting, but the shooting took place because of COVID partially, but we always knew it would be a long shooting process. It took place over the course of a whole year, basically. What we did is we created an animatic, essentially, which you would typically do on an animated movie or a much bigger movie, an action movie. Marvel movies do them, where you're building out the whole movie in storyboards. Of course, this is not a traditional movie. And so the scenes with real people, we would just put kind of placeholder moments or one joke or one drawing with an idea or that kind of summed up what the scene was. But it was a way for us to have an evolving video, basically, that we could watch. And because we knew when we finished, we would not have much time to edit. We finished shooting, I think, about 4 weeks before we delivered the cut to Amazon, and the movie was out 3 weeks later. So in Sacha's other movies in this style, I think he had something like 8 months of editing. And we knew from the beginning, before COVID, this would be much tighter to make it in time for the election. We lost 2.5 months for COVID. And so it became a very difficult task to a nearly impossible seeming task, basically, from the end of shooting for a month of post to finish it. So we knew we had to be editing the whole time, just to keep getting an evolving sense of not only what was working and what wasn't in terms of their relationship and what was the best use of these characters together. Also, are we tracking the story? Is it progressing in the right way? Are there lulls? What's the pacing like? And so we kind of had this thing that we just kept filling scenes in, or versions of scenes, and then we would refine the scenes, and then we were able to try out structural changes as we went along the way and say, okay, let's try a version where we take the Mike Pence bit was originally going to be much later in the movie. Let's, try to put that earlier and see, can we make that as a turning point earlier on? And that's basically how we approached it. We kind of filled in the gaps until we had a movie and released it a few weeks later.
I would say with that, Mike,
go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
The editors are storytellers too, right? They're writers. We had incredibly brilliant people in the edit: Craig Alpert, Mike Jambra, James Thomas. We are helped by the legendary Deborah Neal Fisher, who took a co-producer credit, but they are brilliant, right? They're looking at hundreds of hours of material. They've got to get it down to a 90-minute hilarious movie that's satirical, and we care about these characters and their journey. And that one moment, right, we shut down for COVID. At that point, nobody knows how long we're shutting down for. Jason and I were shown a cut off CPAC with Mike Pence. And Mike Pence originally was going to be at the end of the movie. I was going to rescue Tutar from Giuliani, and she was going to hurt her leg. I'd carry her over my shoulder. We'd be at CPAC, or we were even planning to do it at the Republican National Convention, which got canceled. And then I run in and Mike Pence is there. And that was going to be the end scene. We get shut down. We don't know when we're going to start up again. We know that we still want it out for the election. The studio is saying that's impossible. And we kept the edit going. And one of the editors, James Thomas, shows me and Jason a cut of CPAC. He says, have a look at this. and it's Mike Pence saying there are currently 15 cases of coronavirus in America. The president called me this morning, said, whatever it is, we are ready. And then bang, we had an epiphany, which was Act 3, actually the end of Act 2, and Act 3 is going to be against the backdrop of coronavirus, right? If this is a movie about the wrongdoings of Trumpism, the most lethal wrongdoing is the willful negligence when it came to coronavirus that led to the unnecessary deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans, right? So how can we make a movie that ignores that? We're going to work at, at that point, I went to Monica Levinson, went to Jason, I go, we're going to go out. We're going to go out during COVID. It seemed completely crazy. None of the unions had come up with protocols. We tracked down the world expert on coronavirus and the pandemic, a brilliant epidemiologist at Johns Hopkins called Dr. Jennifer Nuzzo. And we said, please help us. She helped develop a kind of safe system of shooting during COVID, and it worked. Nobody actually contracted coronavirus. And so those editors, I'm saying the reason I'm saying this is a collaborative effort, right? These are crew members, the cameramen, they are storytellers. Everyone is changing the story. Even the music, done by Aaron, my brother, the design, David Maturana, Aaron Knight who did costumes. They are storytellers, right? And they're brave, courageous storytellers who are ready to get arrested. They're ready to, get beaten up. They're ready even at times to possibly get shot to make this movie because they were so passionate and so terrified about this election.
And how complex was the rally sequence? The Country Steve sequence, Jason, were there multiple cameras around? How were you able to go ahead.
That was a real event that a group was putting on that we were able to figure out how to get Sacha on stage. Obviously, the band was in on it because we knew that we wanted it to wind up with him singing this song that Sacha and the writers had written with Aaron, his brother, this incredible song. And we knew we wanted it all leading to that. And it happened just as you see in the movie where Borat was in the house with the guys. They find her on the computer and the rally was the next day. So the house itself, days and days shooting in that house, was a massive undertaking on its own. On top of that, we knew that we needed to go straight to this rally to do a very difficult scene. These scenes in public are always very difficult because we have tons of camera operators kind of scattered through the audience. They can't look like they're filming a movie. While he's singing that song, just around the same time, we knew we wanted this very important emotional scene between Tutar and Jim and Jerry to happen. And we didn't want cameramen standing there, people wondering, is there what's going on? Is there a show being filmed? Is there a movie being filmed? So all the cameras in that scene, and this is the moment where they tell her, your dad is going to die if you don't deliver yourself. And so Maria has one shot. That's a single take. She has one shot in reality to absorb that information and act that moment and do it perfectly. And she did, and then flee and run off. And we have to film that in a way. We have to position our camera operators in a way that they can film it without holding cameras. So we have cameras hidden in bags, and we have iPhones, we have little, point and click cameras, and no one can look like they're filming anything. And I can't be running around with a walkie-talkie looking like I'm orchestrating something, because this is a very suspicious crowd, and they're on the lookout for infiltrators and Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And so it's of a very heightened tension already. And even though we're just making a comedy movie, if you're running around whispering into a walkie-talkie, it could look like you're doing something much different. And so at the same time, we had figured out how to get him on stage. We had to get that scene at the same time. We had to keep Jim and Jerry kind of in this reality, believing that everything that was happening, nothing was orchestrated, everything was real. They really, in their experience, they really were looking around, just as you see in the movie, and they really found her. Of course, we had put her there, but they found her. It was their experience that they found her, and we never tell anyone what to say, but they knew, because of what Borat had told them, what they needed to say to her. And so that happened, and then the stuff on stage happened, and we had cameras all over the audience, many of them on reactions in the crowd. And then he did the song for a long time. Eventually, basically there were other infiltrators there, was the story we heard. There were Black Lives Matter protesters who were scoping out the scene. They recognized Sacha, started saying his name, and the people in the crowd who had been singing along started realizing this wasn't a right-wing singer. This was actually someone mocking them, and tried to storm the stage, eventually successfully stormed the stage, and we fled in an escape vehicle. So yeah, it was one of the more intricate days that we did on the shoot.
And
That's probably, I got to say, the hardest scene that I've ever shot in my career. Also just in terms of danger for everyone there. We were told that if they felt you were an infiltrator, that they would get COVID positive members to spit at you. So you had the fear of COVID, and you had the fear of being shot. I wore a bulletproof vest. Then my security was like, the issue with the bulletproof vest is that it can take a couple of bullets, but if everyone starts really shooting at you, once one person starts shooting, generally a bunch of people start shooting. So they built an amplifier, which you can see on stage left, which is basically bomb-proof. I could hide behind there and wait for security to get me out, hopefully. But, myself and Jason we were chased off stage. One guy pulled out a gun. Luckily, the security guard grabbed his hand and stopped him from shooting. We ran into a waiting ambulance. We were surrounded by guys with semi-automatic weapons. And at one point, they pulled open the door, and I had to use my whole body weight to keep the door shut. And it was a tug of war. We managed to eventually get the ambulance out of there, and we were chased by men on motorbikes. The off-screen stuff, and then you've got the complexities of a scene, which is the beginning of Act 3, a father who's decided he's going to get his daughter, find her. It's an action movie. We're in that genre. How are Jim and Jerry going to find her? Borat's looking for her. And then the idea that accidentally you're on stage, you're going to sing a song, and you'd better get it right first time, because there are no second takes. So musically, it's going to be 100% right in that first take. Acting wise, it's going to be completely right that she goes through that realization that dad's going to die. Security and safety wise, we've got to make sure we get out of there without anyone, being really badly hurt. It was tough.
And Maria, what was it like for you during that scene? Were you very nervous? And
I was nervous, definitely, and especially for Sacha, mostly because he had to do multitasking from the stage, like singing and communicating with his quarantine friends and looking for me, making them believe that he's really searching for me, because he's even singing, she's over there to the right. And also I'm watching him, what is happening with him, all of these people with guns and things around them, some of them with two in one.
But this whole time you're pretending to be a journalist, right? Right. So you had to stay in character through all of this.
Yes, I am trying to stay in character and to interviewing people about the president and about how he handled coronavirus and what is the most amazing thing that these people are achieving. And at the same time, I have to realize that these people are coming to talk with me, and they're going to tell me that my father is going to die. And thinking about that, what I would do if somebody tell me that my dad is going to die. No matter are we in a fight or something, nobody wants his family to die. Nobody wants human to die, I hope. So it's been an interesting situation, and especially because the whole crew was there, and some had to shoot, some had to keep the microphones, the sound. Some people from the team, everybody was there, and this rally was full of our people infiltrated around people with guns, and it's been scary. Not for me specifically, because I also think that Jim and Jerry are good people. And there are people who are gonna help him realize that he should be supportive, he should start loving his daughter because he loves her, but he should start showing her his love. So I wasn't scared by them, and I think I would have been in a comfortable situation because I was on the right side in this place. But I was definitely worried about what is going to happen with Sacha and with the rest of the team.
Sacha, going back to Jim and Jerry, you spent 5 days with them. That in itself could have been a movie. Tell us about that experience of being inside their complex.
Well, it's, you've heard these stories about Daniel Day-Lewis staying in character for months. And, so that was the thing that kind of spurred me on, because I didn't think I'd be able to do it, to stay in character for that long, to, have breakfast, lunch, dinner, play with them, get drunk, have them come in the middle of the night and say hello, wake me up at night. I didn't think I'd be able to do that. It was the hardest acting experience of my life, because also I had to, about 2 hours before going in, we found out that they knew about Kazakhstan, and we decided I should switch my nationality to be from Belarus. I then had 2 hours where I had to learn everything that I could do about Belarus, anything that they could ask me over the next few days. And it was, I was terrified. I remember I went into the house on the first night. I woke up in the morning and no crew were around. I was by myself. I realized that I had this huge marathon of a scene in front of me. It had to be funny, had to go through the story points as well. It's Borat, it's all hope is lost. He realizes he's going to die. He's never going to find Tutar. Coronavirus is there. It's impossible. And at the end of this period, he's going to see her on the computer. So I basically had like a mini panic attack. I was going around my bedroom, pacing. I didn't know how to do it. And then cut to a few days in, I got so deeply into character that I closed the door one night. I went to clean my teeth and I couldn't really use a toothbrush. And I was, held it the wrong way around. I'm looking in the mirror and I realized what was going on. I realized I was still Borat, So it took me a while, a few minutes to get out of character, even in the room by myself. But yeah, it was a challenge.
And you have props and costumes that you use for them. Were those costumes that were specific to that scene? Did you bring them with you? How, like the...
Everything in my room when they come in is real. Everything coming in with Borat's suitcase, everything inside that suitcase has to be completely real. There was one moment where I had like a little hidden compartment with a lock on it, which had my computer, my phone, so I could communicate in the evenings with the crew. And I pulled it out one night, got the Chubb lock, and I managed to get it out, typing. And then suddenly there's a knock on the door. And that Borat. And I was in this terrible situation. What do I do with the computer? What do I do with the phone? Tried to ignore the knocking. And it's Borat, open up, Borat. And eventually kind of threw it under the bed. I'm coming. Threw it under the bed, through the phone, hid it under the pillow. Come on, wait one moment, in the toilet. Hello, yes, what is it? They're just checking you're having a good night, So yeah, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Wow. Jason, I have to ask you the look of the film, that you see the vignetting around the edges, the usage of zooms, so it looks in a particular way. Can you talk about that?
It was really just a tribute to what Sacha and Larry Charles did with the first movie. I studied it. I probably watched it about 30 times to look at the style of it. Our DP, Luke Geisbuehler, and I had long discussions about how do we evoke the look of the original movie, kind of bring people back visually in subtle ways to the feel, because cameras are much better now, and as a result, if you just use kind of Alexas off the shelf, they'll give you a much more shallow depth of field. They'll give you a much more professional cinematic look than you could do back then, which is kind of the opposite of what we wanted for this movie, where we wanted to feel like the same camera from Kazakhstan filmed this movie as from the original. So we actually did tests with the original cameras. They were so old. It was kind of just before high def cameras got good enough to actually shoot movies with. These were the rubber was coming off in the operator's hands. Their hands were black after a day of test shooting with these. And then format wise, there were all these issues with, I won't get into the boring video details, but basically, you know, in a movie like this, you can't have equipment failure. That a scene can't work because a camera, you know, recorded in the wrong way. And in all these tests we did, there kept being these little issues with formatting that have gotten fixed in the 14 years, you know, since. But we couldn't take that risk. So what we did was we kind of figured out how to make modern cameras have the look of the original one. And that's why the movie's not in 4K. It's not even in 2K. It's in high def. It's in 1920 by 1080. It's filming kind of in the center of the chip for anyone kind of technically interested in. It's just filming a little section of it, and it's kind of just an attempt to evoke the look and feel of the original movie. Because I feel like sometimes when an image is too high quality, it actually can hurt the comedy of it. And there's something so pure and almost homemade feeling about the original. You can tell, or at least it gives you the feeling of, you know, there wasn't a lot of time spent lighting. It was really just a camera thrown on an operator's shoulder and swinging around and giving it that kind of documentary feel. And even in the scenes that were fully scripted, the scenes between Borat and Tutar, the scenes that bookend the movie in our fictional Kazakhstan, we did everything we could to kind of keep it in that feeling, so that it didn't suddenly feel like a big budget movie. It all needed to kind of feel in that same kind of rough around the edges way.
And Maria, I'd be remiss. I know you've talked about this, but I'd be remiss not to ask you about the Giuliani scene. You know, how dangerous was that for you, or scary? You know, tell us about shooting that sequence.
That sequence became really famous, right? I'm not sure being dangerous. I cannot say that I felt scared. I did felt nervous. I felt like my heart was racing and I was breathing like fish out of water, like before that, because I've been alone, and he's a lawyer. He's the lawyer of the president. So I had to be really convincing as an actor that this is not a sketch, this is not a joke, this is not a fake character from a made up place, and it's a real journalist from some place outside of America that is trying to be a right-wing journalist here. And I had to know all of the details about his life, about his biography, and why I'm his biggest fan. So trying to remember all of the things about him being not American, it's been a little bit challenging. And also staying in this room alone in character. Sacha was in the closet and ready to save me, jumping and saving the scene and the movie. But at the same time, I didn't want to ruin the movie. We had scenes with Janice, we had the scenes with Judith, we had the scenes with Jim and Jerry, and all of these people are beautiful examples of how if we all treat each other equally with love and respect and supporting each other, the world will be a really better place. So we needed scenes to finish the movie, and we needed exactly that scene. I was prepared from the very beginning that I have to meet somebody really established professionally from America. And being not American, again, I'm not into American politics, but I believe in Sacha and I believed in the team. So it was my duty, and I had to face my my nerves and join the scene. And I was thinking about that. For me, it doesn't even matter that it's actually a politician. It's about, again, the behavior. And if I was a man, if I was a journalist, would have he been touching my waist? Would have he been asking for my phone number and address? Would have he been drinking alcohol with me? Probably more about that. And I realized that maybe even a little bit later, when I start thinking about how impactful it has been, rather than in the scene, because in the scene it's been nerve-wracking. And yeah, he did call the police, and yeah, we did everything legally, so I wasn't scared about that. And yeah, we did escape, and yeah, we did enjoy the run. But it's been a moment of my life that I'm gonna remember forever.
And Sacha, last question, because I've kept you guys for so long, but
No. Hey, Roger, I got to say, it's a pleasure to speak to you, and the level of detail and understanding of the minutiae of film is a pleasure to just speak to you.
oh, well, thank you very much. I'm a big fan of the three of you, and I greatly admire what you've done. So it comes with a lot of love as well from me. What you've done is just tremendous. The question I wanted to ask you is about, I mean, you cast Maria, you took a big risk with her. It's a very demanding role. What was it like working with her, and how did you feel, after, seeing what she'd accomplished? I'm putting you on the spot in front of her.
Well, she's incredible. I mean, she was straight out of drama school. We had her first audition, she recorded the day after her final party at drama school. So yes, it was a risk. We were relying on our instincts. Again, she was head and shoulders above every other actor we interviewed, and we'd interviewed hundreds. And it was just really interesting for me because I realized that I'd never talked to anyone about my process for the prior 2 decades. And then, because no one had ever asked me, how do you do this? How do you read someone's face? How do you do, I had the lines, I did the scene, went out and carried on. So it was really interesting. I knew everything that she was going through. And when she was terrified, I knew that feeling. I still get scared going into a scene, really scared. And so, yeah, it was like, training someone to, I'd been trained in Kung Fu in a specific style, and I was training the new generation. So, but she was incredible. I mean, everything we threw at her, she did. And she did it brilliantly. And despite all her fears, and she would admit she was terrified for each one. She goes, I can't do it. And my thing was, use your fear now, use that adrenaline of that terror into the performance. It's going to give you incredible power and conviction, and it's going to make you fascinating on screen. And we kept on saying, Jason and I, listen, you're going to get nominated for an Oscar, which I believe that she will do. And we believed it from the moment, she did her first scene. So no one else could have done this. Fundamentally, this is a love story between a father and a daughter. It's moving, and it's moving because of her.
Yeah, it's actually one of the things that is just so fantastic to see the film is that, yes, there's some outrageous, hilarious moments and politically strong moments that you guys were able to pull together, but then there is so much heart, and the scenes between you and Maria and Sacha are so heartfelt. There is like real drama involved.
And a lot of that is Jason, the camera moves, and and sometimes, as we were saying, you're doing those real emotional transitions at that rally. Your lead actress finds out her dad's gonna die. You normally have 15 takes of that in a real movie. Jason's gonna have to instruct the cameraman and brief them beforehand so he gets it right in one go. And also, we really use score. Right, we treated the score. Aaron Baron Cohen, who I recognize the surname, but he's done all the movies that I've done, and all the TV shows, and worked with a number of other directors and producers. But you know, he felt very strongly that the score had to be completely believable. He did obviously that brilliant song Wuhan Flu that was believable enough for the crowd to sing along and, you know, sing it, because the satire, by the way, for that would be nothing if you didn't have a song that these people carrying semi-automatic weapons were happy to sing along with immediately.
Yeah.
They had to believe, oh, this guy's a good country and western singer. With Wuhan Flu, you know.
It's catchy and horrifying at the same time.
Well, the lyrics are horrifying, right? But the song is completely believable and it's got a hook as good as any country and western song. But the score is also, you know, Aaron felt very strongly, and we were also helped by Michael Giacchino, who, you know, does a lot of the Pixar movies and done brilliant stuff. We were like, let's treat this as a real emotional story about a dad who finally becomes a real dad and grows to love his daughter like a dad should do, and a daughter who's rejecting her father and going on this emotional journey. And the way we did that was just a really real score with authentic instrumentation. Jason's talking about the detail of the cameras, and we have to believe that these are cameramen who've come from Kazakhstan. We had to believe that this score was recorded in our version of Kazakhstan, which is obviously a mythical country. Our version is. But we had to believe it. So the instrumentation, we have a lot of Roma instruments, and we got one of the great Roma bands, Fanfare Cioccalia, to record some of the songs. But there's incredible detail with all of these departments.
Mm-hmm. And Jason, kudos to you. The rescue scene, the way you shot it, the way it's edited and put together, it has that rush feel of The Graduate. At the, you know, the end of The Graduate, it's really terrific.
Thanks. So much of that is Aaron's score, is navigating this thing. Thank you. Is this climactic rescue at the end of this movie, but that's also navigating between that, the tension of a scene with this real life major political figure who is not aware that he's in a movie, who's not aware that he's basically the villain of a movie, and we're also playing these elements of farce, like when he comes in the boom operator costume and she's slamming the door, and there's farce there and there's comedy. And so the score really did a lot of heavy lifting of kind of taking us through those moments and making that stuff work.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for talking with me, and congratulations. It's so well deserved. All the accolades: New York Film Critics Best Supporting Actress, the SAG nominations, Golden Globes, and there's more to come. But in the meantime, you know, congrats and kudos, and thank you so much for being here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching. We unfortunately we can't see you. Unfortunately, it's not in person, but we really appreciate you giving us your time, and we really hope you enjoy the movie. And thank you for this.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, great, Roger.
Bye.